If you grew up with the Gamecube, you played Super Smash Bros. Melee. It's just a fact, even just a little bit. Melee was the reason people owned the Gamecube. I don't make the rules, that's just how it is. But everyone needs something else for you and the boys to play when you're not in the mood for Melee. For some people it was Mario Party, for some it was Double Dash, others it was Ribbit King, the sick fuck, but for me and my gamer boys and girls, it was Custom Robo. Custom Robo? I've never heard of that, I hear you say as you bang your head on a desk in ignorance. Yes, Custom Robo, you uncultured swine, how dare you talk to me in such a manner, go to your corner! Though, to be fair, I don't really blame people for not having played it, or even heard of it, frankly. It's technically the fourth game in the series, though it was the first one released in the West. Since then, we've had a lackluster entry on the DS that I barely even knew existed, and not a whole lot else after that. But since I don't see enough people talking about this game, I wanted to shed a bit of a spotlight on one of my favorite games on one of my favorite systems. So here we go. So you know how really good games tend to merge gameplay and story, using one to improve the other and using the medium of games to tell a narrative in a way that no other medium can? Custom Robo says fuck that! I have never seen a game whose story and gameplay are this separated since Honey Pop. The gameplay and combat have absolutely nothing to do with the story. That's not to say anything bad about either, both are pretty good. There's just zero overlap whatsoever, and since there's no combination, I see nothing wrong with discussing them separately as well, so let's start with combat. Custom Robo has some of the most fun gameplay, ever? Hold on, let me check my notes here. Yeah, ever, that's right. Throughout the story, you unlock new parts in which you can use and switch out to customize your fighter. You can test out different parts throughout the game to see what fits your special playstyle. By the end of the game, and once you've unlocked and gotten a feel for different weapons, you truly have your own custom Robo. Oh, holy shit, I just got that. There are 5 different types of parts that you will use in your Robo. The body, which basically determines your Robo's overall stats and what unique dash move it'll use. The gun, your primary means of damage. Your legs, which will adjust your movement speed and jump height and length. Your pod, an automatic separate weapon that will roam about on the field autonomously from you. And your bomb, your much more powerful but slower and more difficult to utilize damage-dealing weapon. Now, forget everything I just told you and pick out your favorite gun and body. Bombs are so much less handy to use than guns, I hardly ever used it, and your pod will end up being just as detrimental to you as it is to your opponent. And the legs can be useful, but often your overall movement is determined largely by your body. And there is definitely a tier set when it comes to equipment. There are some weapons that are just straight up not very good, and others that are extremely overpowered. No, I don't want the gun that has a 2-second delay, or the one that fires everywhere except straight. Yes, I would like the gun that stuns the enemy continuously and takes out 1/3 of their health, or the one that does massive damage and is homing. You begin each match in different coliseums in which you and your opponent fight each other and you must bring the other's health down to 0. Pretty basic. This game is one of those easy to learn, difficult to master type combat systems, in which yes, gun is B, pod is L, bomb is R, jump is A, and dash is X, but learning the intricacies of what each weapon can do and creating a robot that complements itself to best win a match is actually pretty complex. For those curious, my favorite Robo combination is the Peregrine body, the shotgun gun, the mine bomb, the satellite pod, and the ground legs. The Peregrine specializes in fast movement on the ground, but doesn't have much in terms of aerial coverage, which is why I use the satellite pod, which fires up a pod that will hover over wherever you fire it for a good long while and home in on anyone who gets close. The ground legs allow me to be more dexterous on the ground, so I run along one side of the map and cover it in satellites to basically make that a no-go area for the opponent. I then weave in and out of obstacles and get in close for a shotgun blast to the face, which can deal a solid 25% of the enemy's health in one hit if you're close enough. When you take enough damage, you fall to the ground where you're open to attacks and have no way of moving. But after that brief moment, you are back up on your feet and have 3 seconds of invulnerability. You also have your dash attack that deals a tremendous amount of damage, and you are also invulnerable while using it. However, you're incredibly vulnerable right after you use it. So if you miss, you've left yourself wide open for an attack. You see now what I mean when I talk about how the game is easy to learn yet difficult to master? There's so much strategy to it while still being intense and fast-paced, and the game does try to help you out with telling you all the minute details about the combat system. I just wish that the way it did it was a little better. Their tutorial leaves much to be desired, and on that note, let's go ahead and get into this story. We open with your father giving you a present for your birthday. Oh cool, a watch. Just what every little 9-year-old needs. He then tells you that it's a very special watch and that you should never ever take it off. I ordered it especially from the Chekhov's gun factory. He then immediately leaves and you never see him again. Father of the Year right here. I'll just put him over here with the other video game fathers of the year. There we go. You are woken up by your landlady and told that you need to get up and go to a job interview. Apparently, you have never needed a job because you have been living entirely off of your family's life savings and you've just been sleeping all day. Fuck, man, I don't think I've ever wanted to be a video game character more. After you get dressed in an outfit that would make Tetsuya Nomura blush, you head over to the bounty hunter office of Steel Hearts. Of course, since you've never been a bounty hunter before or commanded a Robo before, they're a little hesitant to hire you. Typical. Entry-level position and you need at least 5 years work experience. It's during this interview process that you're introduced to your possible coworker. This is Harry. Harry's the worst. Fuck Harry. To try and scare you off and keep you from wanting to apply, they bring you along on a mission where a group of burglars who look like rejects from an evil Pokemon team are attacking the Robo lab. Despite wanting to be a Robo commander, you have to have it explained to you what a Robo is. How have you lived in this world that is completely focused around the idea of Robo fights for this long, and you still have no idea what a Robo is? For the uninitiated, basically you and your opponent enter into a holographic coliseum and use your custom Robos to battle each other. The loser is usually knocked on his ass as a result. And I know this is a point that's been raised by Yu-Gi-Oh!, Mega Man Battle Network, and plenty of other series, but what's to stop you from just going up and punching the guy instead of battling him? If Robo battles are the way that all crimes and disputes are settled, why don't criminals just not fight the Robo battles? Why would they give the law enforcement that kind of chance? There are no guns, as far as I can tell, so why— fuck it, whatever, not important. You end up connecting with the Robo that the burglars were trying to steal. The cops prove to be just as useless in this game as they are in real life, and you have to take out the burglars yourself. All the while, Harry gives you tutorials on the basics of how to play the game. Now, I'm not going to sit here and claim to be an expert on tutorials, but I think walls of text are probably my second least favorite way you can teach a player how to play your game. Second only to this thing. Ugh. Once you beat all the burglars, you're introduced to Harry's sister, Mira. She's a police captain and yells at Harry a lot for being a dumbass. I like Mira. Since you were the only one at that entire job site who actually did anything, they kind of had to hire you. You then spend the next couple of days doing some odd jobs for Steel Hearts. You do some training, you break up a brawl in a park, you get your official commander license, you settle a domestic dispute, and you collect a bounty. During these days, you meet your other coworker, Marcia. She took time out of her busy schedule of being a Star Ocean character to help us out. And while you're doing these jobs, you might take some time to appreciate the sound design of this game. The soundtrack is amazing. The best way I can describe it is lo-fi beats to relax and kick ass to. On top of that, each character has a unique tone to their speech that appears in their text boxes. The text itself does a good job of conveying emotion, often switching up the font and using hearts to convey meaning. And that, coupled with their unique tones, does a really good job of showing off a character's personality, and you can tell how they would probably sound if they were actually voiced. It's like Banjo-Kazooie, except less likely to make me carve out my eardrum with a box cutter. Oh god, Harry's gonna end up on the 10 o'clock news someday. While attempting to collect the bounty, you meet Evil. He's a character named Evil. And he looks like this. And he laughs like this. I don't... I don't think I have any jokes to add to this. The next day, we investigate a murder that happened in the Chinese restaurant. You know, I heard that Kung Pao chicken was killer, but this is ridiculous. Turns out an autonomous robo is running amok. Oh my god! A robot is attacking people! A threat that doesn't involve custom robo battles! How will anyone cope? Oh, no, wait. The robot is making people fight in custom robo battles without the safety on. Still working under Yu-Gi-Oh! Rules, I see. It's also made clear in this scene that the cops are completely corrupt. Apparently they only show up when high-profile jobs appear, but they leave the smaller jobs that the police feel are beneath them to the bounty hunters. Which begs the question why everyone has been so rude to us so far. From what it sounds like, bounty hunters are the only ones who are actually helping the little guys. On one such mission, you're helping take down a ringer in an illegal robo fighting competition, because he keeps losing money for the bookies. See? Helping out the little guys, protector of the downtrodden, that's us. It's on that mission that you meet a character who totally isn't suspicious or a main character at all. Nope, not at all. Nothing to see here. And it's roughly at this point in the game that the tutorial starts to really get on my nerves, because before every single fight, Harry gives you another pointer on something to do with the game mechanics. Now, at the beginning of the game, it starts off super broad and general, but as the game goes on, it just becomes so specific, going over every minute detail of the game. On the one hand, I appreciate the game has such a rich and dynamic combat system that it does have these particulars for expert play. On the other hand, it's at the beginning of every single fight. And a lot of the stuff they try to teach you is stuff you've already figured out on your own. And it isn't until the finals of a tournament that you're taking part in, where you're fighting Marcia, where you don't have a tutorial before the fight. And even then, Harry goes right back to monologuing just a couple of fights later. Speaking of which, how you doing, Harry? You still a piece of shit? Okay, cool. On our next mission, we encounter one of the bosses of the main villain group, the Z Syndicate. The Z Syndicate has been referenced before, but this is the first time we really come face to face. They're a mysterious, shadowy organization surrounded by questions. Who are they? What do they want? What the hell does the Z stand for? So many questions! But we get part of one of the answers to one of those questions in the next mission, as the autonomous killer Robo has re-emerged and began shooting up the betting room. Rahu, it's called Rahu by the way, is actually super strong and is a very tough fight. And right after you fight, you start to realize maybe all is not quite what it seems in the custom Robo universe. The hero talks about how weird it was that the Holosseum had trees, except these trees weren't made of metal, and the grass wasn't made of plastic, which they all agree they've never even heard of such a thing. Which means in this universe, all of nature is man-made. I wonder if that'll come up later. But before we really have a chance to process it, we are met with two other leaders of the Z Syndicate, Oboro and Sergei. Now these are some anime villains! But while we're fighting the Z Syndicate, the Robo manages to escape on its own. The next day, we're forced to enter into a double battle tournament held by the police. I'm not nearly as big of a fan of double battles as I am of singles. Double battles are way more chaotic, and it's kind of difficult to keep track of everything going on screen. On top of which, the game uses what I like to refer to as king piece gameplay, wherein I'm on a team that's working together to beat the opponent, and my partner is allowed to be taken out, and I can keep going. But if I die and my partner is still alive, we lose. The Persona series does this too, and it's just as annoying there. I mean, if I lose, why can't Harry keep going? Does the game just assume that he's going to lose without me? Okay, yeah, that's actually a fair point. Alright, fine, I'll stop shitting on Harry for just a second and start talking about the one moment in which I actually really like Harry. You see, Marcia was a troubled kid. She grew up without parents and only had her older brother to take care of and spend time with her. Until one day, he mysteriously disappeared when she was just a child, and she's been on her own ever since. She's always been a bit quiet and standoffish, but this was turned up to 11 when she encountered Sergei for the first time. Gee, I wonder why! And this emotional state is ramped up even more when she sees Sergei working for an evil organization and attacking her friends. She completely retreats into herself and barely says a word to anyone. Harry tries to get Marcia to get out of her stupor by switching his spot in the tournament with Marcia, but when she can't bring herself to fight, leaving you in a 2-on-1 match against Linda and Ernest, Harry decides to drop some harsh truths. I gotta hand it to you, Harry. You really did a good job and contributed to the team. I'm really glad you're here. Excuse me for a second. After the tournament, the three of us are invited to take another test. This one seems to be of a much more secretive nature. There's only one part of the test, fighting a simulation of the Robo from before. I lost so many goddamn times to this fight. He's got a gun that'll spread out and affect a wide area. His bombs fire in all four directions, making it almost impossible to get close. His pods just keep following you. And the dude can take hits like fucking Boromir. What's that? You say you started out strong and have a several hundred HP advantage? Give it a minute. Once the battle is over, it's explained to you that the Robo that you fought is an entity known as Rahu, a creature that once ran rampant in the natural world, burning everything and almost wiping out the entirety of the human race. It's pretty heavy stuff, and would probably have even more of an effect if Harry would shut up for one goddamn second and stop bitching about how his Robo is wrecked even though your Robo gets back to full health at the end of every battle, you dumb fuck! Okay, I'm good. I'm back. I'm fine. Okay, I'm fine. The police chief thinks that you've had enough earth-shattering perceptions of your world for one day, so lets you get some rest. The next day, you're called into a job, and it seems Rahu is back, but evil has taken care of him. And then, in a startling twist, evil turns out to be evil! In related news, bears shit in the woods, the sky is blue, and Harry's a goddamn idiot. He wants to turn Rahu over to the Z Syndicate because he's got a boner for Eliza, one of the top dogs. Side note, I have never seen a character that embodies more than Eliza and her sister Isabel. Oboro and Sergei show up, but we fight them and then they take away the Robo anyway. What the hell is the point of making Robo battles the way to settle any and all disputes if the criminals are just gonna do whatever they want anyway? Consistency, people, it's all I ask for. We pick up our discussion on how the world is. It seems to be common knowledge in this world that the world is flat and has a wall surrounding it. But we're taken to an underground tunnel and shown that, in fact, we've been living in a dome this whole time! Oh my god! The world is round?! Reddit lied to me. This whole exposition dump feels very Matrixy.
You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain. But you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there.
The chief gives you the option of whether you want to take on the suicide mission of assaulting Z Syndicate's base and destroying Rahu. But they give you a day to think about it. The next day, you get called in by your boss, Ernest. And I know I've barely touched on Ernest this entire video, but I'd like to take a moment to say he's probably my favorite character. He's got a tough exterior, but a soft heart, and he genuinely cares about his employees. He doesn't want you to go on the mission with the police. He doesn't know what it is or how dangerous it may be, but he knows it's something big. But tells us that if we are going to take it, then we need to see it through to the end. So yeah, I like Ernest. I just didn't really have a good spot to put that anywhere in the review. You go back to the police station where they ask you if you're ready to undertake this mission. Fun fact, you can actually say no to this mission. If you just keep saying, "I'm not going," eventually they will leave without you. But without you there, the human race is completely wiped out. So, way to go, dickhead! Once you enter Z's hideout, Mira tells you that she'll follow your lead. But aren't you a police captain? Why aren't we following you? Oh, whatever. We decide to split the party because that's never a bad idea ever, and you go with Mira and Harry while Marcia and Roy go off on their own. No, wait, take me with you! You encounter some syndicate goons, and god damn it, Harry, you're giving me tutorial advice now? I have an S-class license and we're in the final fucking level. If I don't know how to play the game by now, I doubt this is going to help me at this point. Eventually, Mira gets injured, and Harry stays back to help his sister while you go on further ahead. Yeah, let's split the party further. Never not a good idea. You eventually run into Roy. You never really get a chance to interact with Roy much in the story. He's pretty much only ever been shown to be a stuck-up police lieutenant and looks down on bounty hunters. But he admits to you that as he was pairing up with Marcia and you just now, he can't help but see the great potential and skill you have, and he's very impressed, and he was wrong about us. You know what, Roy? You're alright. We should hang out sometime. You meet back up with Marcia and then immediately get separated from Roy. God, it's like musical chairs up in here. And then confront Oboro and Sergei, at which point Oboro does his villainous monologue and reveals that they want to use Rahu to take over the world and to have power. Wow, that's super lame. But like, can you at least tell me what the Z stands for? You begin the double battle, but it turns out that Sergei is actually a double agent, and the battle turns into a 3-on-1 fight. Rahu manages to escape from Z, and everybody meets back up. Mira wants an explanation of what's going on, and boy howdy does she get one! Sergei brings us all into a side room where he explains everything in detail. A lot of detail. This is one of the longest exposition dumps I've ever seen in, God, any piece of media. The SparkNotes version of the exposition dump is that Rahu was once an invisible entity that laid waste to the world, and humanity had no way of combating it. It would find something that had traits that it deemed valuable, adapt to that, enter into a hibernated state, and come back stronger than ever before. Eventually latched onto a Robo, and it's now currently in the form you see before you. Why the hell it latched onto something that actually made it more vulnerable, I don't know. But it was visible now, so the governments of the world finally had a target to drop a tactical nuke onto. Nope, wait, sorry, I was thinking of a different world. They started using the children's toy that Rahu latched onto as a weapon. Then they made a memory erasure device to make it forget how to evolve. But they didn't use it to make it forget that it needs to kill everything. America headed this project, didn't it? But then they used the memory erasure device on all of humanity to make them forget there was ever an outside world and that there's anything to worry about, and you should probably just go ahead and trust the government and the police that run everything. Yeah, definitely headed by America. He explains that the Z Syndicate used to be a good, shadowy organization, bent on finding and destroying Rahu for the sake of humanity's future. He also reveals that the leader of this organization was, dun dun dun, your dad, and that he found a copy of the memory erasure device that was used to stop Rahu the first time. But his lieutenants were getting restless and clearly becoming power-hungry and were planning on moving against him. So, he hid this device in a location that no one would ever look. on the wrist of a 9-year-old child. Yep, the memory erasure device is the watch that your father gave you in the flashback at the very beginning of the game. Then, once your father died, Oboro, Eliza, and Isabel all started clamoring for power, and the organization split and became what it is today. Sergei was another lieutenant and was the only one that held on to the original goal, but used Oboro to get closer to Rahu. Now, I want you to take a minute and guess how long this exposition goes on for. No, seriously, I want you to guess. I want you to pause this video and comment down below how long you think it's going to take. I'm genuinely curious. You ready? 16 minutes and 38 seconds. I timed it. There is not 1, not 2, but 3 save points in the middle of his monologue. There's weaving exposition into your narrative, and then there's the custom Robo approach, which is just beating you over the head with it like a blunt object. Sergei knows where Rahu would have escaped to, so you all head out together. You fight your way through Eliza and Isabel's forces, and then them themselves, until you eventually reach the final boss room with a new and improved Rahu. This is the 3-on-1 fight, and yet, still, he is a pain in the ass to take down. He has no down state, which means no amount of damage you do will put him at a disadvantage. His assault is relentless. You'd think that a 3-on-1 would mean putting you at a major advantage, but if anything, it just makes it an even fight. But we did it! We beat Rahu, and we saved the world, and no, not back to the monologue room! Please, anything but that! The group decides that now that Rahu and the Z Syndicate are defeated, it's best if the world knows the truth about everything. Oh, also, the police captain wants to borrow the memory erasure device for a bit. Okay, thanks, bye! But congratulations, you managed to finish the main campaign, and as a result, you unlocked a lot of new content, including arcade mode, the ability to add CPUs to versus mode, a first-person mode, and a whole lot more, including, a whole new campaign! The second campaign is called Grand Battle, and I have mixed feelings about it. On the one hand, the biggest downside to the first campaign was the complete and total disconnect between the combat and the story. Here, that's fixed a little bit by the story being just a series of tournaments you need to take part in, so it's literally just about you fighting in multiple battles. On the other hand, it's literally just you fighting in multiple battles. Each tournament has unique rules and themes. Some use a specific type of Robo that you have to fight. Some are 2-on-2, some are battle royales. It also added a time limit and now keeps score based on how quickly you defeat your enemy, the type of parts you use, and your ending health. In addition, a lot of the tournaments use a rule where you can't use the same parts twice, so it adds a new strategy to the fights. You have to look at what parts your opponent is using and create a Robo that might be able to counter it. It adds a fun new element to the fight and lets you test out part combinations you might not have used normally. At least, that's how I felt about it at first. In reality, you just come up with some set Robos that you use in every tournament, and then you save your best for last. My issue is that I have an effective Robo, and I have my favorite Robo. My favorite Robo lets me play the way that I'm most comfortable with and actually enjoy the game. However, my effective Robo will take out the enemy with a short amount of time with high health and get me the high score. So if I want to get a gold trophy in every tournament, I'm kind of forced to play in a boring, yet efficient way I don't really want to, which is kinda lame. Speaking of those tournaments, some of them are really fun as a nice little wrap-up of some loose ends from the story. For instance, you learn that the police used your memory erasure device to erase the memory of all the villains of the game and shape them into what they want and be productive members of society. Yep, I'm not super uncomfortable with the idea of the one and only government organization using a device to wipe the memories and personalities of those that oppose them and to brainwash them into doing exactly as the state demands. Nope, nothing shady and super corrupt going on here. No, sir. All of the villains, which of course includes Evil, who, for a guy who's had his memory erased, sure is acting like his old self, and recalling things he really shouldn't be. Are you sure he's been brainwiped?
Yes, I'm totally that thing you just said. I've been thinking of changing my name to Good.
During one of the tournaments held at the police station, you get to speak with the total bros that are Sergey and Roy. I love these guys. They're so cool. I want to hang out with them. I also love how in the very last tournament, the very last fight is against Harry. This feels fitting somehow. The guy who's been with you from the very beginning, the guy who's been giving you advice throughout the entire game is your final match. It feels like it's come full circle somehow. I'm glad he's the last. Plus, it gives me one more opportunity to beat the shit out of him, so, you know, that's always fun. And then the game just kind of stops. There's no real ending. There was a party at Steel Heart's office that was implied that I think would have been a great way to wrap up the game, but instead it's just you beat all the tournaments, thanks for playing, bye, which is super disappointing. I was kind of hoping for more of an ending than that.